Senator, I want to ask about the impact here at home, specifically economically on gas prices. They've climbed to an average of $4.32 per gallon. You're calling on the U.S. to ramp up oil production after the U.S. banned importing oil from Russia this week. But I want you to listen to what President Biden said about that this week.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true. They have 9,000 permits to drill now. They could be drilling right now, yesterday, last week, last year.
Is the president right?
No. I mean, with all due respect, let's be specific. When the president was elected, he said we're going to cut off Keystone, which is North American energy, which is what we're talking about. That was over 800,000 barrels per day, more than the Russian oil, which was 600,000 barrels a day. Second, the president issued an executive order stopping exploration on public lands and on water, public waters. And then finally, as you know, he's rewriting this legislation that is now in regulation that has to do with permitting, called Waters of the United States. And all of this is leading to less North American energy production. So
Senator,
there's some specific policy decisions that have been made.
Senator, on a couple things. On Keystone, I've not seen any report that it would have even been done in time to affect the crisis that's happening now. It wouldn't have even have been done until at least next year. And on the public lands that you're talking about, that might be true that he stopped production on public lands, but the administration they've given more permits for drilling on private lands. In fact, I have a quote from Secretary Granholm telling oil companies back in December, take advantage of the leases that you have, hire workers, get your rig up. So isn't it true that this is really just because of the pandemic and all of the economic woes and the implications from the pandemic that we're seeing now? And then,
Dana,
of course,
can I
exacerbated by Russia.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Okay, well, first of all, oil prices started to go up long before there was any invasion of Ukraine, as you know. So oil prices went up for a lot of reasons, but one is the fact that this administration made it a priority of theirs to stifle domestic production of fossil fuels. There's no secret to that. The campaign talked about it, and the president did it when he got elected. He had the right to do it. I disagree with him. So that's a fact, and that affected the price of oil again long before the Ukrainian issue became a factor. Second, you talk about these leases. If oil companies could know that they could make billions of dollars in investments, which is what some of these are, like the Keystone XL pipeline, and have that end up with oil and gas being able to be available in the market, they would certainly do that. And Keystone XL pipeline, yes, it was going to come on shortly, but more importantly, people who had invested billions of dollars, including the Canadians, who are very upset about this, found out what can happen in an administration that wants to stifle production. So there's a lot of lack of certainty and a real concern about making those investments now. And my own state of Ohio, as you know, is now a natural gas producer. Also, we have some oil and some wet gas. So we hear this from these companies, and all I'm saying is what we should be doing is continuing to produce as much oil and gas as we can right now, because it's a national security as well as an economic security issue. At the same time, continue our work on renewables, continue to try to make that transition, but we're not ready for that transition. And so in the meantime, we have got to be able to be energy independent again. And this is, again, as we see, a national security issue, as we're unfortunately seeing very clearly now in this crisis.
Senator, thank you so much for joining me from Poland, right near the border with Ukraine. I really appreciate it, and stay safe.
Hey, Dana, can I say one more thing about the Polish people? In this crisis, we have seen the absolute worst of humanity, and that is these indiscriminate bombings of civilians. But we've also seen today the best of humanity. The Polish people have opened their hearts and opened their homes to these folks from Ukraine. Already about 1.2 million people have come from Ukraine to Poland alone. And it's unbelievable. We saw cars lining up of volunteers ready to pick up Ukrainian refugees and take them to their home. There are 10,000 people online who have offered a home to these refugees. They're very appreciative of it. And today I was at a number of volunteer activities, including Jose Andres' group, which is World Central Kitchen. You're probably aware of them. We serve food to the refugees there. They're doing an awesome
Thank you.
job. The World Health Organization was there with volunteers, so we are seeing some really generous outpouring of support for the
Thank you.
Ukrainian refugees.
Thank you
and
for
I
adding
certainly
that.
appreciate that.
Thank you for adding that. I really appreciate it. That's an important
Thanks,
thing
Dana.
to note.